7. This bulletin is live from our studio here at Disallow Kanda in Accra and also live around the world on 3news.com. Coming up this evening, SIM card registration or re-registration. There's chaos in Parliament as minority abandons business of the House in protest against Deputy Speaker Bernard Ahiafor's decision to disallow their leader's supplementary questions.
But Mr. Speaker, why are you frowning? Why are you frowning? Because we are talking about the governor, you want to frown? Why are you yesterday you were very cheerful.
So,
Mr.
minority
Speaker,
leader, are you objecting?
Oh, Mr. Speaker, now you're asking the question.
We'll update you on the developments and the chaos that erupted moments ago in the House. Also in the program, we will interrogate government's review of mining leases, which has been cut down to 20 years from 30 years, while we examine the restoration of the Achimota Forest to its status as a reserve. And in the final minutes of the show, we ask who leads the National Democratic Congress into the 2028 polls as flag bearer. The polls are suggestive and we will share the content and details with you in a moment. We are live around the world on 3news.com and also live on Facebook and on YouTube. So do let us know what you make of the many stories we have for you this evening. Before that though, let's bring you the news summaries.
Thank you, Martin. In the news summary for today, Cabinet has revoked the executive instrument EI 144 restoring Achimota Forest Reserve to its full protected status. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofibua, announced the decision during the Government Accountability Series media briefing on Wednesday, July 15. Also, Finance Minister Dr. Kasiola Toforsen is scheduled to present the 2026 media budget review to Parliament on Thursday, July 23, 2026. The announcement was made by Deputy Majority Leader Kwekuri Tegan on the floor of Parliament on Tuesday, July 14, during the presentation of the business statement for the coming parliamentary week. Also, the Ashanti South Regional Police Command has arrested 3 suspects for allegedly disrupting the New Patriotic Party (NPP) constituency executive election at Bidiaso in Obuase. According to the police, the suspects Haruna Idrisu, also known as Dole, Osei Boatin, also known as Nana Osei, and Charles Opoku, also known as Blackman, stormed the polling station on July 12, 2026, armed with offensive weapons. In other stories too, as part of its commitment to promote sustainable community water management, a knowledge sharing session was organized by the Integrated Social Development Center, ISODEC, to enable community leaders and water management stakeholders to exchange experiences and identify practical solutions to challenges affecting rural water systems. The initiative followed ISODEC-led documentary that highlighted the situation in Chiako, a community in the Infantiman Municipal Assembly that manages its own water supply through a community-based water system. And in the last item on the news summary, majority of delegates of the governing National Democratic Congress (NDC) support calls for Johnson Esiedin Ketia to remain the party's national chairman. This comes despite growing conversations about the party's future leadership ahead of the 2028 general elections. That's all for the news summary today, Martin.
Thank you very much. And we go straight into the details of our stories now, starting from the registration or re-registration exercise that many of you have been talking about. The minority members of Parliament a few hours ago walked out of the chamber after the Speaker disallowed a supplementary question a supplementary question that was asked by the minority leader to the Communications Minister Sam Nate George. The first Deputy Speaker Bernard Ahiafor had ruled that the supplementary question was not in line with the main question that was asked. The minister was in Parliament to defend the government's decision to undertake a new SIM registration exercise, saying it is aimed at strengthening the integrity, security and reliability of Ghana's telecommunication ecosystem while addressing shortcomings identified in the previous administration. Let's listen exactly to the concerns that were raised in Parliament and the submission that was given by the Minister in charge of Communication and Digital Innovation, Sam Nati George.
Mr. Speaker, the previous exercise aimed to ensure that all SIM cards are linked to verified identities through biometric verification and validation against the NIA database. However, the biometric information collected during the exercise was not checked against the NIA database, allowing some individuals to register SIM cards using false, stolen, or unverifiable identities. It was not linked to the biometric data that is held by the database. There's a big difference between biodata and biometric data. The biometric data is fingerprint and facial recognition. Biodata is the information on the plastic card. So that could easily be alterated, and that's why we had instances where we saw Ghana cards that were linked to SIM cards, but the biodata had been changed. So the right name, but wrong date of birth, because the biodata is just printed on the card. But what is intended to give the database its integrity is the biometric, because nobody can fake your fingerprint or your facial recognition. So as we speak today, what we have is linked to biodata, not to the biometrics. And the intention of the then administration or ministry was to link it to the biometrics, which didn't happen. And that's what we want to do with the current registration. Link it to biometrics, not the biodata. The proposed registration framework introduces several new safeguards, including a real-time electronic biometric verification, self-registration capability for physical SIM and eSIM services, the designation of a primary number for authentication purposes, remote SIM delinking, device verification through the Central Equipment Identity Register, real-time validation of corporate registration and diplomatic identification documents, and stronger fraud prevention mechanisms.
And that is Sam George, who is the Minister in charge of Communications. Now, he also assured that the new SIM registration exercise will be significantly more convenient and less destructive, using remote smartphone-based approach, scheduled appointments, expanded registration centers, and mobile registration teams for underserved communities. He stressed that the larger aim is to reduce overcrowding and long queues.
This existing SIM registration platform cannot adequately support the enhanced requirements relating to real-time biometric verification, multi-institutional interoperability, enhanced cybersecurity, and device verification through CEIR. The proposed registration exercise is being designed to minimize inconvenience to subscribers and avoid the long queues experienced during previous registration exercises. Accordingly, the registration process will be as much as practical undertaken remotely using the subscriber's smartphone through secure digital onboarding and biometric verification technologies. Mr. Speaker, for subscribers who may require physical assistance, the NCA intends to implement a scheduled appointment system for visits to consumer care centers. Mr. Speaker, the NCA is also considering the use of post offices and community information centers across the country as supplementary registration centers to improve accessibility and bring registration services closer to citizens. Mr. Speaker, for inclusiveness, and particularly for people living in remote and underserved communities, mobile registration teams may be deployed to hard-to-reach areas to facilitate the registration process and ensure that no eligible subscriber is left behind. The proposed exercise has been designed to be significantly more convenient and less disruptive than previous registration exercises through the use of remote smartphone-based registration, scheduled appointments, expanded registration centers, and mobile registration teams for underserved communities. The ministry's objective is to achieve a secure and credible subscriber database while ensuring that the registration process is accessible, efficient, and citizen-centric.
And so you heard the Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram constituency and the Minister in charge of Communications and Digital Innovation, Sam George. Now, on the back of that, there was some skirmish in Parliament where the minority did not like how the the speaker at the time, the speaker who was superintending the proceedings in the House, Bernard Ahiafor, actually stopped a question that was being asked by the minority leader, a substantive question, I beg your pardon, and he indicated that it was not in line with the main question that was being debated on the floor. So let's listen to how this entire issue played out, causing the minority to walk out of the House. So that those are snippets of how the minority decided to leave the chamber following the directive by the Speaker, Bernard Ahiafor, who said that the question being asked by the minority leader, Alexander Peñomaking, was not part or in line with the conversation being had on the floor. And on the back of his decision to suspend or ask the minority leader not to ask his question, got the entirety of the minority walking out of proceedings in the chamber. In a moment, we'll speak to our correspondent to find out what exactly the latest is regarding this particular issue and whether or not the minority returned to complete the conversation. So these are some of the excerpts that led to the walkout.
F2 to a committee on sanitation and water resources. I so preferred. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I've been informed that the governor is in this house. He's here at long last. Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I want clarity on this matter because the last time he was supposed to appear before us, the governor of the central bank. We want to be sure. No, it's not about going after the governor. I'm only asking. Yeah, I want to be sure because, Mr. Speaker, we are prepared for the governor today. We are prepared for the governor.
Honorable Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to be sure.
If a minister or agency head is to appear and answer question, before the question is mentioned, do you get up to demand whether he's here or not? Please. Please. It's a rhetorical question for you not to answer. Majority Leader,
Mr.
let me hear you.
Mr. Speaker, I want to assure the minority leader that of all the people who may be afraid of him, not this governor, this governor cannot be intimidated by you. So don't attempt to intimidate the governor. The governor is here and he is capable of answering any question that this house poses. So please, don't make it an issue. This governor has never failed to attend upon an invitation of this house. Never. 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 So please, let's not dramatize these issues. People's reputations are at stake here. And the reputations of institutions are at stake here.
Any
so,
indication?
Mr. Speaker, the Minister for Communication has to catch a flight, so I want us to take his questions first.
Very well.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minority Leader, with all due respect,
yeah, Mr. Speaker,
you do not have the floor.
Yeah, but Mr. Speaker, he has requested for something.
You do not have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, normally when the majority leader makes a request,
you don't have the floor.
He has to find out from us whether we are in agreement. He has
what
not informed
are the
us.
question numbers?
Mr. Speaker, he needs to build consensus. He needs to clear with us. We need to discuss it. But Mr. Speaker, why are you frowning? Why are you frowning? Because we are talking about the governor, you want to frown? Why are you yesterday you were very cheerful.
So, Mr. Minority Speaker, Leader, are you objecting?
Oh, Mr. Speaker, now you're asking the question. Mr. Speaker, the majority leader knows what to do. Normally, if the minister has to catch a flight or whatever, you engage. That's a practice. He hasn't engaged. Engage. Mr. Speaker, engage. Mr. Speaker, please. Yesterday you had a good day with us. Mr. Speaker, you had a good day with us yesterday, and we all applauded you.
Members, without any objection, I will then mention question number 643, standing in the name of Honorable Grace Ayensu Dankwa. Honourable Member, you have the floor. Honourable Member, the questioner is not here to ask the question. I will therefore ask that the answer be published as we move to question number 716.
Right, so that is Bernard Ahiafor, the presiding speaker in Parliament, and you heard also the voices of the minority leader Alexander Apenyo-Marking and the majority leader who earlier spoke about issues regarding the presence of the governor of the Bank of Ghana. Christian Yali is our parliamentary correspondent. Christian, thank you for your time. To start with, we were told that the minority walked out. What exactly led to that decision, and are they back in Parliament?
Martin, so as it stands, they are back. The decision to walk out of the chamber was triggered by a question the minority leader, it was a supplementary question that the minority leader wanted to ask the communications minister, which was overruled by the first deputy speaker who was presiding. Basically, the communications minister was asked about why government has decided to undertake a new SIM registration exercise. In answering a supplementary question related to that, the minister indicated that the new registration system would not come at a cost, so it will come at no cost to the customer. So first, the minority leader sought to ask to know whether there would be procurement in relation to the new SIM registration exercise to be undertaken. And then that question was overruled because the speaker, as it were, would indicate that when you are asked to ask a supplementary question, the supplementary question must be in line or must be related to the main question, the substantive question. But the other side of the issue is that once the minister is answering to a question and introduces another issue of fact, then MPs can ask a follow-up question to ask for specifics on what the minister himself has said. So even though the question was not about asking for cost in relation to the new SIM registration exercise, the minister had indicated in his response that it will come at no cost. So ordinarily, any MP at all could ask a supplementary question in a follow-up to that answer that the minister had put on record. So that was the first instance. But beyond that question or supplementary question, he also wanted to ask for another detail because the minister in the earlier response had indicated that the SIM registration exercise is coming because the first one did not link information of registrant to the NIA database or was not linked to biometrics, but was only linked to biodata on Ghana card. And so people are using it for fraudulent activities, for identity theft, and for, all manner of, illegal activities. So the minority leader again sought to ask the minister if knows of the specific number of people who have used the existing register for such fraudulent activities. And the speaker again indicated that he should file a fresh question because the minister would have to be sure of the data, be sure of the numbers. That is what subsequently or consequentially led to the minority walking out of the chamber because they felt that the speaker was not allowing their questions asked, following from what the minister had already put on record.
And you say they are back in the House right now? And proceedings are ongoing.
Exactly, because we know that currently some statements are being made and they are in the House. In fact, there was a second walkout in the sense that the Bank of Ghana governor was billed to come to answer questions. In fact, the questions have been advertised on the other paper and the answers are equally published in the other paper. So when that was about to happen, after the communications minister and when the BOG governor was invited, the majority leader signaled the speaker that, they are going to dissolve into a committee of the whole. When Parliament decides to go committee of the whole, it means that any other guest, including the media in the gallery, will have to be excused or they will be asked to step out of the chamber so that there will be no public record of whatever is going to be discussed. What it means is that the committee of the whole would be the MPs themselves, as well as whoever has been invited to come to answer questions. It will be done in camera or off record, so there wouldn't be any camera. When it happens like that, even Parliament TV that streams would also go off, so the signal will be disconnected. Now, the minority is of the view that that is unfair, especially when the answers to the questions asked have been published in the order paper. There was no need of the majority asking for a committee of the whole. But Martin, that was on what the standing orders say, because when you look at standing order 266 1, it indicates that proceedings of the committee shall be held in public except otherwise determined by the committee. And committee of the whole is like a committee on its own as well, so they can decide that whatever they are doing would be done publicly or in private. And in this, the leader of the committee, who is the majority leader, decided or had the agreement with the speaker that they will conduct it private without the media. And so if the minority wants, whatever answers are which have been published in the order paper, they can go ahead to use the information there for whatever purpose. In fact, the minority, the ranking member on the Economy and Development, Kojo Ponkroma, has addressed the press on this issue, and we've had a counter press by the majority leader himself on the same issue. So the second walkout was at the instance of a particular issue. And the question, Martin, basically was about the interventions Bank of Ghana has made in Ghana's forex reserves, which brings for the issues about the gold board, gold for reserves, what was the previous administration, and how this current government is seeking to bring reforms as it were with the Ghana Gold Board and the rest of that. So that is basically what has transpired. But now the issue has moved from even the questions and the answers to whether or not it was right to ask the media to excuse the MPs to have their private deliberations with the BOG governor, or it wasn't right, or the media should have been allowed. Martin.
Thank you for those updates from Parliament. And we're staying on the issue of parliamentary conversations, and now bring in Sami Obeng, who is the Executive Director, Africa Parliamentary Network. So Christian Yale is our parliamentary correspondent. We are just picking up from where he left off, which is the issue of why the minority decided to walk out, and whether or not this is actually supposed to be normal practice, especially when it comes to issues of supplementary questions. Sami, good evening, and thank you for joining us on Hot Edition on 3FM.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
What would your initial thoughts be? Give us some education on what normal or expected practice should be in Parliament. Can the Speaker ask a member of Parliament who wants to ask a supplementary question not to go ahead with that question? And is it fair or right that based on that denial, the caucus can decide to walk out of the House?
Okay, I think that it is fair to start off with why question time in Parliament. As you know, one of the very important roles that the Parliament of Ghana, just like a Parliament of any other country, plays is oversight, to oversee the executive branch by the representatives of the people. In exercising oversight, there is this principle that is established in parliaments the world over, that parliamentarians can haul any member of the executive branch before the people's representatives, the House of Parliament, and ask them questions relating to their constituencies, relating to general national issues, etc., that sits with the office that the person that has been hauled to Parliament holds. Of course, in other jurisdictions, the Prime Minister comes to answer this on behalf of everybody. But in our jurisdiction, ministers, heads of constitutional bodies, etc., are required by the standing orders of the House to come before Parliament and to answer these questions as part of the oversight responsibility of the Parliament of Ghana. And so that is the principle behind question time. What that then means is that Parliament as an institution must make every effort within its ability to ensure that it is entertaining the spirit of oversight, which is why questions are asked. And if you want to oversee someone, you don't oversee someone in the dark. If you want to oversee someone, you don't oversee someone with excessive restrictions that undermine the spirit of oversight. So those are the general principles that I think that it's important that we establish right at the beginning of this question. But what does the rule say? The rule says that anybody can ask a question, any member of parliament can ask a question. If it's a constituency-specific question, it means that you, the one who asks the question, is for your constituency. So nobody else must come ask supplementary questions except you, because you know the constituency and are representing the people. If it's a national matter, just like this question on the NIA, the SIM card registration is, then after you, the questioner, have asked your supplementary question, other members of parliament also can ask limited supplementary questions. And then the standing orders goes ahead to say the leaders of the House, majority, minority leader, can also ask further supplementary questions, even more supplementary questions, just because of the spirit behind question time as an oversight tool.
Right. So, final question. Are these captured in the law so everybody is aware how proceedings should play out, or they are agreed upon when there's the knowledge of who is being invited and which specific subject area is going to be discussed?
So these are enshrined in the standing orders of Parliament. And so technically, let me say that I was not too pleased with the stretch that the first Deputy Speaker, who was sitting in chamber, sitting in the chair today, put to some of these, his approach to why the supplementary questions could not be answered. In fact, if you ask me, I completely agree with the minority leader that he had the rights by the standing orders. These are not conventions. These are enshrined in the standing orders. He had the right by the standing orders to ask the kind of supplementary questions that he asked. He went further to explain how it relates to the question that was originally asked. He went further to relate to some of the answers that the minister himself had provided, and for which reason I think that it was only fair that the Deputy Speaker, who was in the chair, allowed that question to play out, especially when it was a question of public interest. Parliament must be a place of transparency. Parliament must be a place where citizens can sit, watch TV, watch the proceedings of Parliament, and recognize that their concerns have been addressed by their representatives without excessive use of stretched interpretations of the rules of the House to stifle, the work of Parliament. Everybody knows my position about walkouts and how, as a civil society person, we have always said that walkouts are not the best way to address issues. So the walkout is a different matter. But on the substantive issue of the question, the right of the minority leader to ask a supplementary question, and the need to have had the Deputy Speaker admit those supplementary questions, I think that a disservice has been made to the people of Ghana for not allowing questions to go through. That's my respective views.
Right. Sami, thank you for the thoughts you shared with us. Sami Obeng is the Executive Director, Africa Parliamentary Network, and thank you for letting us know how what is captured in the rules of Parliament and proceedings and how the current interpretation is affecting the progress of parliamentary procedure. You're listening to 3FM 92.7. When we return from this quick break, we'll be interrogating a number of other issues regarding the new laws about the SIM card registration. So, information we are picking indicates that henceforth, following the new law that has been passed, which is active now, you are not supposed to allow anybody to photocopy your your Ghana card. If that happens, it is against the law. We have details of that and more right after this.
When malaria strikes your home,
92.7, this is 3FM, and we are staying on the subject of the SIM card, its re-registration that is expected to happen in the coming weeks, and then also the issue about your Ghana card, what you can use it for and what you cannot use it for. Well, what we are being told is that photocopying or visually inspecting a Ghana card for the purpose of conducting transactions is now an offense. And this follows the new legislative instrument LI 2111, which is currently in force. Under the new regulations, biometric verification is now mandatory for identity verification in transactions, replacing the previous practice of relying on photocopies or visual inspection of the Ghana card. Let me take that line again in case you missed it. Under the new law, biometric verification is now mandatory for identity verification in transactions, which means that your biometric verification is what you should give to any institution, anybody, or any company that asks for your Ghana card. What you can do is you can verify your biometrics, which is your fingerprints and then your facial scan. That is what they can take, but not a photocopy or a visual inspection of your Ghana card. And the amended law, which was laid before Parliament 3 months ago and gazetted on Wednesday, the 15th of July, which is today, imposes sanctions on individuals or organizations that fail to comply. According to the new provisions, an organization that contravenes the regulations commits an offense and upon summary conviction is liable to a fine of not less than 500 penalty units and not more than 2,000 penalty units. Individuals found in breach also face penalties ranging from 50 to 500 penalty units, which means that if you, with your Ghana card, you know that you are not supposed to photocopy it and give it to anybody, go ahead to photocopy and send it out or make it public or take a picture of it and make it public, you are also liable to some sanctions, and you could be you could face penalty units of up to 50 or 500, between 50 or 500 penalty units. The minister responsible for the National Identification Authority, or the National Identification Authority is under the Ministry of Communication. Now, the minister in charge of that ministry is expected to address the public in the coming days on the implementation and enforcement of the amended law. Meanwhile, organizations wishing to integrate with the National Identification Authority's identity verification platform have been advised to apply for onboarding by contacting the authority through its designated verification channels. So that is the news we have now, which is that you are not allowed to photocopy your Ghana card for any transaction or take a picture of it and send to any company, institution, or individual for whatever reason. Sanctions will apply. And we're staying on the issue of the SIM card re-registration. Abednego Lamanging Bamdin is chairman of the Parliament Select Committee on Information and Communications. A very good evening to you, Honorable. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Good evening, 3FM, and good evening to your listeners and viewers.
The Minister in charge of Communications, Sam George, in Parliament today reiterated a point he has made time and again, which is that the old registration of our SIM, which many of us queued to ensure that it was done, had some flaws. Would you be able to tell us at least 2 or 3 of those flaws so that the everyday Ghanaian would understand that, well, then there is the need to re-register our SIMs?
Okay. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk to you. Indeed, the minister came to the floor of Parliament today to reiterate what he has already been talking about, the need for a SIM card registration. And let me emphasize that he uses the word SIM card registration, not re-registration. And that enforces the point that you just made, that it's a new registration and not re-registration, because it comes with different forms of capturing data of individuals. It is recognized that the previous registrations were marred with fraud. There were issues of people not properly captured. There were issues that the features that they wanted to capture of individuals was not properly done. An assessment of the data has been done, and they have come to the conclusion that the current data is not fit for purpose. It has been discussed thoroughly with all stakeholders, and they have come to that realization, or they have accepted. So, therefore, there is a need for the ministry to supervise yet another registration of our SIM cards. The minister came to brief the communications committee, and questions were asked, clarifications were given. We were satisfied, and he promised that he was going to brief the whole House. And that was what made him today appear before the House for a general briefing. But for we in the Communications and Information Committee, we are satisfied from the briefing that the minister gave us. And this, you know, comprises of both sides of the committee. So we are fine with that.
Well, and so thank you for the clarity you bring to this issue. Many Ghanaians endured long queues, like I indicated. What oversight should we be expecting from Parliament regarding the new registration that is about to start? And how confident are we that we will not be asked to go through the process again?
Yeah, so when he briefed the committee, we asked him questions. We wanted a roll-out plan so that Ghanaians will not go through what they went through during the Minister Osula Owusu's regime, where people had to go and queue overnight in order to get registration done. There were people who queued for 2, 3, 4 days and yet couldn't get themselves identified or registered. We wanted to avoid such a thing if the exercise commenced. The minister convinced us that this time around, technology advancement has made it possible for people to even use their mobile phones to do the registration themselves and still capture or provide all the information that is required of them. So once we were satisfied that Ghanaians will not go through the stress that they went through during Minister Osula Owusu's regime, then we were okay, we were fine with that. But of course, we told them that since this was just a plan that he was giving us, we were looking for more details even before the exercise commenced to ensure that what they are telling the committee is what would Ghanaians will have and not any stressful registration exercise again. We don't want to see that.
Kindly talk to us about whether you have the buy-in of, all sides of Parliament. We saw while the minister was answering questions or making his presentation, there were some concerns raised, especially by the minority side. Is this a consensus that, yes, their administration or when they were in power, they undertook a similar exercise which flaws have been, found in, for which reason we have to undertake the exercise again? Have they agreed to why there is the need to retake this exercise? Are there concerns they are raising?
Well, I was in a committee meeting whilst all of these were discussed on the floor. So I didn't even have the opportunity to watch it on TV because I was engaged with another committee meeting. But we received a delegation from Namibia, and they were meeting my committee. I was given a brief with them. So I didn't see what the issues were that the minority side disagreed with. I'm yet to find out exactly what their positions were. But it is important to emphasize that the decision to register SIM cards is untenable, because they all agree that the previous registrations didn't do us any good as a nation. And you cannot exist as a nation when you don't have a proper identification of who uses a mobile number, and you have fraud activities increasing on daily basis. In fact, some of the fraud activities associated with mobile money are underreported, you understand? But those of us who are industry players, we are aware that it is increasing on daily basis, and we can't afford to allow that to continue to happen. There are issues of national security that we need to have every SIM card properly identified with somebody. This time around, the ministry is telling us that we will not only register our SIM card, but the mobile phone that you are using should as well be registered. You understand? And this is just to protect the Ghanaian citizen. This is in our national interest. And I think the minority will not have any issues with that, because they recognize the importance of the registration exercise. If there are disagreements with the modalities, that is a different thing altogether, that we can sit to your job to disagree and to agree on some of the issues.
Right.
But they cannot say that the SIM card registration is not necessary, and they cannot say that it cannot be registered. They agree that it has to be done. Left with the modalities, we can continue to engage.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable, for the explanation you've brought to this subject. We are grateful for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate your time too.
Right, and you heard the voice of the Parliament Select Committee Chair on Information and Communications, Abed. I beg your pardon, Abednego Lamanging Bamdin, who has just explained or given us further reasons why we all need to go and re-register or register our SIMs, as they are saying it should be. It's not a re-registration exercise. This is actually the real registration of our SIM cards, which will be linked to our Ghana cards, etc. You're live on 3FM 92.7. This is Hot Edition. Let's turn our attention to some political stories we have for you this evening. And a new Global Info Analytics nationwide tracking poll among the National Democratic Congress delegates suggests that the race to succeed President John Mahama as the party's 2028 presidential candidate is becoming increasingly competitive. While National Chairman Johnson Essiedu Nketia remains in the lead, his support has flipped as Finance Minister Dr. Ahiafor continues to close the gap. The survey also points to a growing number of undecided delegates, indicating the contest remains wide open. Joining me in studio now is lead producer and legal counsel for the production team. That should be a safe way to put it. 62's Dong Ulo joins us for a quick chat on what exactly Global Info Analytics is putting out and the conversations thereon. 62's, thanks for your time. So, for the last few months, we have known that Johnson Essiedu Nketia was on a thank you tour. There are those who say that the thank you tour is more or less to sell himself or reintroduce himself to the delegates to let them know that he's interested in standing as flag bearer. What new details have we found out from Global Info Analytics?
Well, Global Info Analytics said they engaged about 5,637. That's the exact number, the population size they engaged in all 16 regions. That is where they did this survey through computer-assisted telephone interviews. So they'll give you a call and ask you some questions. This was between 8th July and 14th July. That was just yesterday, ended yesterday, and we have the summary of findings released today. And in all of them, as you mentioned, you have the national chairman of the governing NDC taking the lead, and that is been compared to the finance minister, Ahiafor. You have the education minister, Haruna Idrisu. You have the vice president, Professor Opoku Ajiman. You have the chief of staff also in that list, Julius Debra. You have Professor Joshua Alabi. He's also there. Remember, he went against current president John Dramani Mahama. You have a Greek minister, Eric Opoku. All these are names that have come up. And there's a category called others. Maybe if they ask you, who do you think in the NDC, who do you think can lead, and you mention Sixtus Dongulo. This is your own, why I cannot lead.
No, I get a point.
And you also have an undecided category. And they did this in April. They have now done it in July as well. April 2026, there was a first survey where you had the national chairman, Johnson Esiedu Nketia, leading with 29%. Against, that's in the general overview of it. And then in July, he slipped down to 27%, closely followed by Finance Minister Ahiafor, 19% in April, now is 22%. And the change there is some 3% gain for him. So in the case of the national chairman, you have a 2% loss in terms of the people who are supporting him or who would want to root for him. Education Minister Haruna Idrisu comes in number 3, 11% in April 2026, and in July 6%. Also, you have a minus 5% decline in the support base. The Vice President, Professor Nana Jane Opoku Ajiman, 8% in April, and in July it's 7%. Julius Debra, Chief of Staff, 8% in April, 5% in July. And Professor Joshua Alabi, had nothing in April, and now he has a 1% support base or confidence base amongst the NDC people. And the others, that curious category of others, is 1%, was 1% in April and still 1%. 24% was undecided in April.
And that's a significant number.
That's significant. But it's even more significant now. 30% undecided.
That has also gone up.
That's also gone up significantly by a 6% margin. So if 30% are undecided, I don't think that any of the names that we have mentioned should confidently say that they are in the lead. No, they cannot be in a comfortable lead. Okay. So the appreciation we have seen here would be for Finance Minister and also for Professor Joshua Alabi, whose name has just been entered into the race. And, also our Greek Minister, Eric Opoku, plus 1%. But there's also a breakdown. You would realize that the national chairman is the one leading, right? There's a breakdown. The pollsters have done a comparison between the national chairman who is leading, notwithstanding the slip in margin. They've done a comparison between him and each one of the respective names that I have mentioned. Okay. So if you take the finance minister, for instance, who comes right after the national chairman, the findings show that in a head-to-head between Esiedu Nketia and Ahiafor, the race is statistically tied, with Esiedu Nketia leading with 34%, Ahiafor 33%, and 33% undecided. Okay. Undecided. Okay. So if you do that comparison between the general chairman,
general secretary,
national chairman, I'm so used to him as general secretary.
So and
each one of them, you would find that he performs far better than each one of them. Okay. But again, that undecided category is still there, and it keeps growing and growing and growing. So it's one category.
There are still a number of a number of days away from that election, so I believe that in the coming days we would be getting more on this. So that's what's happening in the camp of the NDC
exactly.
Regarding the poll conducted by Global Info Analytics. Let's swing to the camp of the New Patriotic Party, and business and sports will be coming in the next minute or so. So talk to us. We are told the NPP has also taken a major decision. What's that?
Yes, you would recall on Saturday they had their constituency level elections, and there were some skirmishes in some of the constituencies. So we have received communication from the NPP only this afternoon, signed by Acting National Chairman Dankwa Smith Bute, also co-signed by General Secretary Justin Kodia Frimpong, and it says that they have annulled, let me just read this paragraph. The NPP has with immediate effect annulled the purported constituency executive elections conducted over the weekend in certain constituencies across the country on the grounds that the elections were conducted in flagrant disregard of party directives, the rules and regulations governing the 2026 constituency executive elections, and where applicable, subsisting court orders. And the constituencies are 3: Bantama, Efija Sechura East, and Adanse Asokwa.
Thank you very much, 62s, for these updates. If you go to our website, 3news.com, you get an update of all the major issues that we've discussed on 3 News on Hot Edition, and then also all these conversations about the NDC and the NPP are there. Time now, though, for the latest in the world of business.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me. This is Makausa. Coming up tonight, Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry GNCCI urges Bank of Ghana to cut policy rates by 100 basis points to ease business borrowing costs. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. The Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, GNCCI, is calling for a 100 basis point cut in the Bank of Ghana's policy rate ahead of next week's Monetary Policy Committee meetings. The chamber argues that lower borrowing costs would provide much-needed relief to businesses grappling with high financing costs and help stimulate private sector growth.
The Bank of Ghana has gradually eased monetary policy this year as inflation has slowed and macroeconomic conditions have improved. In March, it cut the policy rate from 15.5% to 14% before keeping it unchanged at its May meeting, citing uncertainty over global commodity prices and tensions in the Middle East. Speaking at the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industries CEO's Business Forum on the 24-hour economy and accelerated export development, the Chamber's president, Stefan Abbas Miezin, called for a further 100 basis point cut to reduce borrowing costs and support business growth.
Let's talk about at least 100 basis points or something like that, so that it goes down, it's more further. And then also, we also want to see that the currency is also strengthened, it's stabilized, because these things are things that affect the economy. If we see a spike in that, it affects the economy. Inflation comes along with it.
At the same event, the Chief Programs Officer at the 24-hour Economy Secretariat, Abdul Alidu, said the Secretariat is exploring ways to unlock pension funds as a source of long-term financing for businesses.
You know that within the pension industry today, there's a lot of funding. Our pension industry has close to 100 billion cedis under management. Because of the rules that govern the way they invest, they are not able to deploy a lot of that to the private sector. What we are trying to do is to work with the National Pension Regulatory Authority to ensure that we figure out ways to allow them to be able to invest into the private sector.
And that was a report on the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry, GNCCI, urging Bank of Ghana to cut policy rates by 100 basis points to ease business borrowing costs. And that brings us to the end of the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Ausa. Bill Eshen is here for sports. Please stay.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Bill Eshen and we have just about an hour to the start of the second semi-final game between England and Argentina, and England's lineup is already out. We have in goal Jordan Pickford, we have Declan Rice, John Stones, McGahey, Anderson, Harry Kane as captain, Jude Bellingham. Morgan Rogers is getting a start in this particular game over Bukayo Saka and Noni Madueke, who have both been placed on the bench. We have Gordon, also Reece James, and then Jet Spence, all starting for England in that semi-final game against Argentina. And also we do expect that for Argentina, Guillermo Simeone would start for them as he gets his first start in the FIFA World Cup. And so a lot to look forward to. Of course, that game will be live on TV3 at 7 p.m. with discussion starting at 6, and also there's live commentary that will be coming up on 3FM 92.7 starting from 6:30 p.m. to decide who wins and books his place for the final to face Spain later this week. And so a lot to look forward to later tonight. Of course, that's all there is for sports here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Bill Eshen. Martin.
Yep. And Bill, before you go, I mean, the conversation still continues from the shock of yesterday.
Yeah.
Many thought France will make it through. We don't know how it happened, but Spain managed to edge through to the final. Is a similar upset expected today? You think Argentina could be knocked out by England?
I don't think it's similar, but the thing is, both teams have actually labored throughout the tournament. Argentina more so, having experienced multiple extra times, whilst England experienced one with Norway. So it feels like this game might drag all the way into extra time and might go into penalties if need be to decide the winner. But I believe Argentina, with that Messi magic, would have the advantage over England. There's been a lot of things that have basically maybe Argentina been doing superstitiously to ensure that the win comes. For example, they decided to go with their away jersey, which was the same as they did in 1986 when they defeated England in there. And then there was a training session where Lionel Messi was seated way away from everybody. That was something that was narrated that Diego Maradona also did before that England game. So it's looking like more of a superstition game. I will see how that plays
and
out.
a lot of mind games as well.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Bill Eshen. And like he indicated, there'll be live commentary on 3FM 92.7. And then also, if you are watching TV, it will be live on TV3. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. and you'd want to make a date. So on the back of that, we bring the bulletin to an end. Thank you very much for listening. If you want more news, you can go to our website, 3news.com. My name is Martin Esiedudate. Bye for now.